along with Bob Beckel, Eric Bolling, Andrea Tanteros, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. So a lot of people think the Democrats and the liberals are the people who care about the little guy. But is that true? Not necessarily. If you look at our education system, especially in urban areas, every parent wants their kids to go to the best school possible, right? Including private schools and charter schools. But the fact is, Democrats, including the president, won't let them because they owe political favors to unions. Now, Mitt Romney highlighted that fact on Fox and Friends just this morning.
He talks like he's for the underprivileged, but when it comes to the money that comes from the teachers union, he's putting that, the campaign cash ahead of the needs of our kids. And we have to recognize it's time to put our kids first, to get education on track by giving people greater choice in schools, by making sure we reward the very best teachers with great careers and rising incomes. We know what to do to make our schools better. One more, by the way, is digital learning. It's making an impact. The teachers unions fight it tooth and nail. Yep. We got to put the unions behind, put the kids first.
Sounds like a good idea, Bob, but is this a vulnerability for the president? Is he against this idea?
It's not a vulnerability for the president. It's Mitt Romney shooting his mouth off, and he knows not what he talks about. And the fact of the matter is that Mitt Romney took money from teachers when he was running for governor. When you talk about Democrats, Democrats have been for charter schools, and Democrats have been the teachers union, first of all, there's nothing wrong with the teachers union. You have a right to organize. The teachers unions are good things. If most people in this country send their kids to public schools and they like their public schools. So Mitt Romney, of course, Mitt never went to a public school. He wouldn't know because he went to his fancy private schools. And his
Rich.
Well, no, it's fine. I had four-car garage.
Evil rich guy.
I want that elevator for my four-car garage.
Last time I checked, the Obama sent their kid to a Richie private school, too.
They certainly do, but this is Romney who's shooting his mouth off, not Obama.
So whenever Mitt Romney raises a question about a problem that we know exists, i.e. teachers' unions, and the fact that we keep shoveling money into the education system and seeing worse and worse scores, all you have to say is, oh, he's just a rich guy. Don't listen to him.
The private schools, the kids score somewhere between 15 and 20% higher in math, reading, and writing than the public schools.
Yeah,
so clearly they're getting a better education there. We want to go back to Mitt Romney for a second.
Yeah.
We want to take his push or emphasis on education when he was governor of Massachusetts, because I think he did pretty well. I think for the first time they had both a fourth grade and an eighth grade aggregate scores of the kids in fourth and eighth grade at the highest level that they've ever been in during his term.
What I said was Mitt Romney took money from teachers when he ran for governor.
What's that got to do with it? So what?
To sit there and say
you would
Barack
take
Obama
money from the Tea Party, wouldn't you?
To say to put unions in front of kids is one of the more obnoxious, outrageous things that's come out of a fairly obnoxious, outrageous guy.
But it's true.
It is not true. He has not put the unions in front of kids. That's a horrible thing. If you want to attack him on other things, but don't say that he puts unions in front of kids. It's just silly.
Have been #1 on the Democrats' list. I mean, think about Joe Biden. Right after winning re-election in 2008, he came out and he says, "To the unions, we owe you." 3 words. And look, there's a lot of great teachers out there, to be fair, excellent teachers. We're talking about the teachers' union bosses that push and push and push for less work but more money. And it's preposterous to think that somehow they need protection from the taxpayer. I mean, they have an unprecedented amount of political access, organization, and influence in the political process that, frankly, the students, the parents, they don't have.
That is a fact.
Can we travel back in time 2 days to this show when I did a monologue on that teacher, that crazy teacher screaming at the kid about disrespecting Obama? You know Mitt's right. It's time to call BS on fascism of the faculty lounge. The teachers union has devolved into Obama's Ministry of Information.
You're taking one teacher, one example, and you're painting an entirely negative picture of an entire union.
You're right, though. I am.
You are. And that's one of the problems. You always say all liberals are this and all things like that.
Because there's a lot of examples.
Most people in America like like their public schools. They believe in their public schools. Yes, there are problems in inner-city schools. We know that. But the idea that they get better scores, you could afford to spend $25,000 to send your kid to school.
Okay, because they have maybe more money or vouchers, whatever. Fine, you'll give you that. But then why not pay teachers based on performance? Why does the union push back on that?
I think there's no reason that they shouldn't. I've said for a long time that teachers ought to be retested.
Because I don't honestly, I love you, but I don't care what you think. I care what President Obama thinks. Why wouldn't the administration or the Democrats push back on this fight against paying for performance to teachers?
Well, I don't know. You don't care what I think, so I'm not going to tell you.
Explain to me why if kids are the most important thing here, shouldn't their score be the best test and
That'd be
the
a
reason
merit
to pay?
system, though. That's part of the problem because of government jobs and this whole mentality of entitlement. Everybody's entitled to a job. Everybody's entitled to teacher benefits. Everybody's entitled to tenure. Well, guess what? The American students, children lose in that. And you're going to then demonize parents who say, listen, I want more out of my child's education. I don't want them to sit there and be indoctrinated in classrooms. They say take them in a private
If
school.
you ask the average parent about what they think of their public school, overwhelmingly they think it's positive.
My little munchkin's in public school right now.
And you like your school?
Sure, I love Miss Desi.
Well,
Miss Desi
then,
knows
okay,
everything.
good. There's one.
That's what he told me.
Now, we can take...
But Bob,
I'll make it two.
Okay, it's two.
That's not fair because I said, in fairness, there are some excellent teachers out there. It's the bosses of the teachers unions that use their influence to push for these things. I mean, they have summers off, the protections that have been afforded to these teachers. Here's my point. If Barack Obama was a different kind of politician and he wanted to bridge somewhere between the right and the left and really come to the middle, Bob, why wouldn't he take a more reasonable stance like you and back up vouchers and back for pay for performance?
First of all, there's a reason that they don't teach in the summer because the kids aren't in class. But the second thing I would say is there's no reason why teachers, for example, teachers should be tested on a regular basis before they get anything like tenure. Be sure they can teach at the level they're supposed to be teaching at. I have no problem with that. Most Democrats I know don't have a problem with that. The teachers union is going to have a problem with anything that changes the status quo, and that is a problem.
No,
there we go. See, we all agree.
That is the point. It's a protection racket against failure.
But it's
in your example of the teacher who clearly was teaching completely wrong things gets laid off with pay.
With pay. I want to get laid off with
98% of the teachers are not like that.
No,
That's
but
the
also
point.
there's plenty of teachers where we've had very sad situations. In particular, here in New York, there's a couple that have been highlighted where teachers have been accused of inappropriate behavior with young children. You know what I'm talking about? And you can't even fire them. They are still getting paid, or they get transferred to another school.
I hate to say it.
You know that's true, right? They put them in these special
I hate to say this. That sounds like the Catholic Church.
No, it doesn't. And Bob, we're not going to tolerate any more disparaging comments about the Catholic Church.
Well, we'll just, if you're going to talk about inappropriate teachers, and I can first talk about inappropriate priests, all right?
All right. Well, you know what? Then we're going to have to agree.
It's not really germane to the topic at hand.
No, it's off topic.
Because here's the problem.
Well, let's talk about inappropriate Democrats then.
Well,
where do we start? Ted Kennedy?
Who have their own version of a rubber room in their house. But that's
I know. I'm just being as tacky as you are.
I know. No, I'm not. What I'm trying to say here is I just don't think you can paint everybody is a negative because there are examples. It is true there are abuses in the teachers union in certain areas, but they have the right to organize. But that's their right.
No one is saying they don't have a right to organize, but I want this based on merit. I want teachers who care about children and aren't stuck in a classroom because everybody's afraid to fire them and they have union
overwhelming
protection.
number do.
I confess my ignorance on teachers unions. What are they fighting for? Are there a lot of pencil sharpening injuries? I want to know, what is the legitimate reason for a union now?
Salaries.
It's salaries. Okay,
salaries.
we can
and
figure that out.
protections. So they can keep their job no matter how horrendous, and they can retire and get a nice retirement. Not even have to work for it.
You talk about these Democrats who claim they're for vouchers and claim they're for charter schools. Well, if they actually joined with Republicans, there are enough votes to get a lot of these things passed. Barack Obama would not lose the nomination. He wouldn't lose the teachers' unions. Where else are they going to go if he came out and actually did something to improve education?
They can't, because the minute they do, they don't get the political contributions from the teachers union, which they all need.
Charter schools were started in North Carolina by a Democratic governor, by Terry Sanford. If I can make that point.
But also, bad teachers give good teachers a bad name. They do. That's the problem. You've got some amazing teachers out there.
You were a teacher, weren't you, once?
Yes.
There are a small percentage. I don't know many people who think that their teachers are bad teachers. I just don't.
It just makes me happy thinking that you taught
And I'll
There
tell
are
you,
some bad teachers. though, Bob.
Everything-
Not
there
all
are
of them
some bad
great.
teachers, that's right. But you keep cutting education funding over and over again, and you're loading these schools up with classrooms of 30 and 35 kids, you're going to have that problem.
No,
and who's
that's
the
not
ones
the
who vote to
issue.
cut that all the time?
That's not
It's
the
Republicans,
issue.
not
A lot
Democrats.
of these teachers that are penalized for inappropriate behavior are making six-figure salaries
Right.
sometimes. How is that fair? The taxpayer's footing the bill
You
for
show me a
inappropriate
percentage
behavior?
of teachers in this country that make six figures, and I will eat your hat.
I sure will. I'll bring
She
you the
doesn't wear a
write-ups
hat,
in the
but
New
I
York
still
Times.
wanna see
I
it.
actually
You know what, Bob?
do
Everywhere
some
else
stuff
in the
with-
world,
Right.
your compensation is based on performance. Everywhere, in sports, in business, in
If that were the case-
except in unions.
Except that's wrong about the unions. First, if that was the case, then all teachers who are good ones ought to be making six figures.
I agree with that.
I
Okay,
think
well-
teachers,
Completely agree with that.
I
All
think
right, fine.
teachers
Then
should
tell
be.
Republicans to stop cutting money for
Can I
education.
just point out
That
one
is not
important point?
true.
That Kimberly was a teacher and taught high school students.
Yes.
There was never an absentee, was there?
Well, they moved me
Never.
from teaching the seniors in high school back down to the kindergarten since I was 21 and the boys
Can you
were
imagine
18.
that? You would show up every day.
What do you mean you're just coming
Yeah,
in
you
for
know what? You're
Kimberly's
right,
class?
It was perfect attendance.
Awards for everybody.
It is a sexist statement, but it's also a true statement.
Wait, Bob,
Yeah.
you're actually calling him out for a sexist statement?
I think all of this
That's
sexist talk has just
interesting.
got me down.
Take it.
Okay.
You're bummed out.
Education in America, people. A substitute teacher coming your way. Okay, coming up. President Obama blames Republicans for the debt problem and says he's the one to fix it.
Cool.
It takes a Democrat to fix these problems after they have run up the tab.
But who is the real big spender? Aha. We'll dig into the numbers when we come back.
A big spender.